Hello and welcome back to the show. So I am super excited about my guest today. Her name is Athena, like the goddess, and she is one of the top 15% of real estate agents in her area. She runs a team in Denver, Colorado, and she has a really interesting story when it comes to overcoming adversity. She used to be an athlete, and we'll definitely have her come on and tell her story, but without further ado, I want to bring on my guest, Athena Brownson. Athena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been listening to your podcast nonstop and just getting so excited for the opportunity to share at least a little bit of my story in hopes that I at least give some piece of wisdom to someone out there listening.
Right, absolutely. And I think you will because you do have a really interesting story. And I think when it comes to overcoming adversity, it doesn't matter what the specific situation is. I think the mindset and the journey all kind of stay the same. So if you don't mind, would you just share your story a little bit? The background that you came
Absolutely.
from and how you got into real estate and everything from that point on.
I wish there was like a one concise sentence I could give you, but I think interesting, the term you used is absolutely a perfect way to describe kind of the journey that I've been on in the last, call it 2 decades. So I grew up in a small town, a ski town called Breckenridge, Colorado. If you are a skier, I'm sure you've heard of it, or a snowboarder, excuse me. And as I bet you can imagine, I was pretty much on skis when I learned how to walk. So my dad was actually a professional speed skier and a residential real estate developer. So growing up, I obviously followed his footsteps, but by the time I got old enough to be at the point where it was, do you want to do anything real estate related? Never in a million years would I have said yes if you asked me when I was 15 years old, because that was what my dad did. You don't really want to do what your parents do, but like it or not, and I am so grateful now. I I grew up on job sites. I was constantly walking properties with my family and of course constantly skiing. So I was on snow about 300 days a year, let's call it, from ages like 15 to 25. And I went professional as a skier when I was 15 years old. And when I say professional, I mean, that's basically when you start getting your trips paid for. You have specific sponsors that are, not only giving you gear, but paying for your travel, because a lot of the travel was chasing snow, in the northern and southern hemispheres. And I had no idea at the time, but being a competitive athlete, and I think being passionate about anything that you do, so whether you were, a avid sports player, or you were passionate about anything else, I think that when you love something so dearly, you learn so much about how to be successful and what tools are necessary in order to be the best that you can possibly be in any arena of your life. And I look back at, my career, and I say the best business school that I ever went to was my time as a professional athlete, because I had these incredible coaches and mentors and older athletes even that were giving me the opportunity to learn and to learn where my blind spots were, to learn, how to be accountable, how to stay disciplined, and that there were going to be, every action that you do improperly, you're going to have to make up for it. You have to have discipline. So for example, if I were to even give the slightest amount of attitude, or maybe not listen to direction from a coach, you're not taking the chairlift that day. You're walking up the hill in between, I was a freestyle skier. So I was one of those crazy people that threw myself through the air and did spins off jumps. And I also learned through skiing, not only the principles that I believe, defined my business as a real estate agent today, being the importance of coaching and mentorship, the importance of colleagues that you can run things past, and discipline and accountability. But I also unfortunately learned a little bit about adversity. And I say a little bit because what I went through injury wise as a skier, which included 9 ACL surgeries, so 9 knee surgeries, an ankle and 2 neck surgeries. So I went through my fair share of hospitalizations, I would say, but it prepared me slightly, but I believe nothing could have prepared me for what was to come. I'm going to leave that cliffhanger there. But when I decided to move on from skiing, I finished college, had a design job. So I was doing interior design in luxury mountain homes. And to be totally honest with you, I was bored to tears. I realized very quickly that as a professional athlete, I, to a certain extent, was responsible for my own success. The input that I put in would then, show in the output that I produced. And I realized that having a boss and sitting behind a computer from 9 to 5 was not really opening that door and opening the limitless opportunity. And I had a dear friend say, Athena, you love people. You're obsessed with homes and design. Your father was a real estate developer and builder. Like, what are you doing? You need to be a real estate agent. And honestly, it had never dawned on me. I always thought of real estate as, we had more real estate offices in Breckenridge than we did t-shirt shops. And I made fun of the t-shirt shops, and you best believe I made fun of the abundance of real estate agents. So it was just something that I kind of had this depiction of a sleazy salesperson that real estate agents get oftentimes. And I was quickly shown that I couldn't be further from the case when I met with the owner of my friend's real estate company and realized that this was a relationship-based business, and that my love for people and my craving for an opportunity where the sky was the limit, and that if I was able to work as hard as I possibly could, then I would do well. And I was fortunate enough to end up having him as my mentor. I quit my job the next day after meeting him, had my 9th knee surgery, and studied and got my license while I was recovering. So that was 9 years ago in June. I have no idea where time went, but 3 years into my career, I was gaining momentum. I was starting to feel, I was 26 at the time, starting to feel pretty cool. I was selling about 10 million in volume a year, pretty good for year 3. And very quickly, my life turned from feeling like I was at the top of the world to very quickly being probably in the lowest place I've ever been. So after my last neck surgery, which happened right before all of this, so 3rd year in my real estate career, I started getting a lot of really, really bad health issues, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, really bad GI issues. And I, of course, started getting all of these tests. Doctors kind of were scratching their head about why a young, healthy adult was having health problems. And fortunate for me, I had a doctor that was very aware of Lyme disease. And he said, I think we should test you for Lyme, Athena. And I laughed at him. I was like, I've never even seen a tick in my life. That's how you contract Lyme disease, is being bit by a tick. And I've never been bit by one. I've never seen one. And he was like, Athena, 80% of people that have Lyme disease have never seen a bite. So let's just test you. We can either rule it out or we know what the issue is. And unfortunately, the tests came back and it was blaring red. It was like sirens. You have every possible strain of Lyme disease and co-infections, and this is very serious, and your health is about to tank, because my immune system was compromised from the neck surgery. Lyme attacked, and it ended up turning into such severe autoimmune diseases that I was almost crippled for a good 3 years. I mean, I say that, and then I'm going to say, did I stop working at any point during this? No, I didn't. And to me, real estate was the guiding light. Real estate is the guiding light that keeps me motivated, that keeps me pushing forward. It keeps me goal oriented, and it keeps my mind occupied so that I'm not sitting at home thinking about how bad I feel all the time. And I think lots of times in life, whether we have adversity such as this, and when I say sick, I mean, I have a nerve disease where my body attacks the sheath, the protection around my nerves. So I became so sensitive to electricity. It's called a electromagnetic frequency sensitivity. If you don't learn anything today, I hope you learn what that word is. And it meant that anytime I used my phone or computer, I had pretty severe electrical burns up and down my arms. It meant that anytime I tried to walk into a grocery store, anything with high electricity voltage, I would get very, very ill and have like muscle cramping, heart palpitations, most pain I've ever experienced in my life. So I literally moved into an RV that was not connected to electricity. And I remember wearing like lead gloves, a lead cover, and I would be writing $1 million contracts from my RV. So it was severe. But what I learned, and what I continue to learn, is that in the face of adversity, we have two options. Option A is, I believe that everyone needs the opportunity to mourn whatever they're experiencing for a finite amount of time. It's so important to be able to give yourself the time and the space necessary to process that something hard is happening in your life, whether that's a divorce or a death or a health problem. I think we have this culture of kind of toxic positivity right now, where we're just supposed to be positive all the time and everything's sunshine and rainbows. And I'm here to say, you don't have to be happy all the time. If things are happening in your life that are hard, you need to let yourself have the opportunity to mourn that, but you can't let yourself get stuck there. And that took a long time for me. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that I wasn't devastated at, kind of losing what I thought was my life. I was a professional athlete at the top of my game. Going to, it was difficult to get out of bed, and it might take me 2 hours to get dressed because everything hurt so badly. So it took me a long time to not be angry about that. But eventually I learned the hard way. But hopefully anyone out there can take this and realize that you can literally get through anything that you put in your mind. And I realized that, you know what, I am a sick person at the moment, but I'm the luckiest sick person possible. I have a career that allows flexibility. It allows me the opportunity to build deeper relationships with my clients by really telling them what I'm going through. I was not shy about expressing what I was experiencing, because I now get 4 plasma transfusions every 3 weeks. So there are, going to be 4 days a month where I'm not available for a half day. So as my client, I have to set that proper expectation. But I learned that the key to overcoming adversity or to getting through challenging times is to have something in your life that you can keep your eyes set on. And that is truly what has kept me going. Real estate, setting continuous goals for myself, that are realistic within my own situation, but the competitor in me then comes out, and everything I learned in skiing, and it keeps me doing the basics every single day and not forgetting that the basics are going to be what get me to where I want to go. So if I set out a basic, I call it a greatness tracker. One of my coaches taught me it, and it outlines all of the real estate activities that I'm going to do that day. And having that greatness tracker to keep my mind off of the hardship that I'm experiencing, and just keep my mind in doing tasks one after the other that I know are going to lead to the successful future that I want to be. And I include health items on there that I know I can get through anything, and that I know that I can do anything. So how's that for a short-winded answer about my life thus far?
Yeah, I think, it's a real, well, first of all, I do want to thank you for sharing that. I
Of
think when
course.
people listen to this, they're gonna see their life and the problems that they're facing, and maybe some adversity that they're experiencing or have experienced, or something that they can't get past as far as a challenge, whether if it's in their personal life and their business.
Mhm.
And it is going to make it seem almost small, right? Everybody's going to have their own challenges, and we all have
Totally.
different experiences. But when you look at, like you said, these other things that are going on that could, maybe be more important than, a contract not getting accepted or
Totally.
something else like that, it makes that seem a little bit smaller, and
Mhm.
it gives people less of an excuse to, not go out there and make things happen. Because like you
Yeah.
said, when you were, in your RV with, all the protective covers on yourself, you were still
Mhm.
writing contracts and still getting things done. And that was actually one of the things that was able to help you deal with your challenges, was continuing to, you know, really just push yourself and work and,
Yeah.
dedicate yourself to something that was, you know, almost bigger than your own self, right? If
Yeah.
you want to put it that way, would you
It
say
takes
that?
you out of your own head, and it exactly. I think that real estate at its core is about helping others, and anything in life, when you're going through a difficulty, when you're experiencing, a challenge, I think if we focus outward on how we can help others, how we can help make their dreams come true, and the fact that we get to be involved in those incredible milestones of life, it does put things in perspective. And I say in perspective, but it honestly, it gives your mind something else to focus on. And I'm a huge believer that your mental game is half of getting over or accomplishing anything that you want in life, if not more. So if we're constantly sitting in our own mud, just focusing on how ugly the dirt is around us and how messy things are, then we're going to keep sinking into that mud. But if we are experiencing some mud in our lives, but we're able to keep our eyesight on connecting with our clients, creating genuine relationships, deepening relationships, assisting people in building wealth for their future. Like, we have such an incredible opportunity and ability to change people's lives, and that does make our own problems smaller. And I think it's something I'm forever grateful for, and I will preach it from the top of a mountain about how grateful I am to be in this business. But I think regardless of what you do, if you find something that you're very passionate about and you put your focus into your passions, and doing the best you possibly can at accomplishing the daily activities that are going to allow you to have long-term success in your passion, then you're not going to be sitting in the mud sinking.
Right. And I think that's a really good point that you brought up, is what your mind focuses on. That is what's going to grow in your life as well. So why would you want to focus on, like you said, this, almost feel like a sinking ship if you
Yeah,
want to think about it, right? And you're
exactly.
just keeping on pouring more water into it. So I think what you mentioned, earlier on as well was that, it's okay to acknowledge and, grieve, like you said, what
Yeah.
is going on in your life that's maybe not the best situation or, a challenge that
Especially
you're
in this
facing.
market.
Right. Yeah. I
You
think a
know,
lot of
like,
people are grieving different things, right?
yeah, I speak from a time where we've all been hustling for the last, year and a half because the market has shifted so dramatically. And obviously that changes from market to market. But I think that a lot of agents are struggling right now. And it is, that's how they feed their families. That's how they afford their medical bills. That's how, like these huge repercussions that come with a more challenging market. And like you said, it is important, like we said, it's important to acknowledge realistically where we're at, and it's okay to get frustrated. Was I frustrated last week when I saw interest rates go up again? Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, can you give us a break? But we have to persevere. There's no option. We don't have, when things get harder in our lives, when the market gets tougher, this is the opportunity to dig in. When I was skiing, when I was, falling run after run after run, it's so easy to just throw your hands up in the air and be like, you know what, I tried, I'm done. Same thing with real estate. You might go right now, meet with 6 buyers, and they just go, I don't want to buy right now with interest rates. I don't want to buy right now with interest rates. Or sellers, I don't want to sell because I have nowhere to go. I don't, you can get the door shut in your face over and over and over again. But the key is perseverance. And it's understanding that when it feels like you want to give up, when it feels like you just can't do anymore, that's exactly the time to dig in. So when you're sick of I keep saying that I feel like I've been a hamster on a wheel running as fast as I can and not really getting anywhere. Now I'm super grateful that I've been able to keep my business continuing to grow, but it's because I have put myself on a very disciplined schedule or very disciplined accountability block, I would say, that I know that I am doing the prospecting I need to do. I'm doing the nurturing of relationships I need to do. I'm taking care of my clients by sending them birthday presents and cards and doing 1-year anniversary follow-ups on their properties. Like, this is the time to get gritty. This is the time to work harder. This is the time to get innovative and creative, because there's going to be so many agents out there that have 2 doors shut in their face and they're going to leave the industry. Well, good riddance, like, wish you the best, but that's opportunity. There's opportunity right now to gain market share. And the majority of people are not going to have what it takes to put in the work to get that future opportunity. But I'm telling you, people, at least from everything that, all of the coaching and mentorship and everything I have ever learned about life, it's when things are difficult is the opportunity to dig in, and you have to think of it as an opportunity. It's not just complaining about how bad the market is. It's, what's the opportunity for me to help people during a really tough time economically all over the country? What's the opportunity here for me to build future market share that's going to help me to grow my business down the line? Like, how can I get as creative and scrappy as possible to make sure that I am not going belly up during this? Because it's hard not to want to give up when things get tricky, but that's the time that you really learn about yourself. Like being sick has taught me more about myself as an individual and helped me grow, unfortunately, more than I think anything has. And I would never wish that on anyone, but I understand that I would not be, and the person that I'm supposed to be without having gone through these hardships. And I think if you can look at hardship in that manner of, okay, how is this forming me into my future self? And what do I want that future self to look like? So do I want to take the road that might be a little bit easier? Or do I want to dig in and get, do everything I can to create the future I want for myself? And that's an opportunity. And I think just having that mindset shift is critical. And it's really not difficult. I mean, obviously there's a lot of challenges that come with it, but at least having that principle in your mind of adversity equals the opportunity for a better tomorrow, a better future, then we really stop looking at things in such a negative light.
Right. And I think, would you say that if you were to have a vision of who you want to be in the future already, it actually
Mhm.
makes it easier to deal with adversity in a positive way and to treat it as an opportunity because you're now, working
Oh,
backwards,
it's so
right? You're
good.
working backwards and able to deal with that so that you can become who you are and that becomes part of you.
I love that so much. And you just said that so beautifully because I am such a believer in understanding and knowing who you want to be and what you want your life to look like, and then working backwards. And I think there has to be a realization there that obviously things never go to plan. Like I didn't plan to get Lyme disease and I didn't plan to get all these autoimmune diseases. So we have to be able to have these audibles to get through whatever challenges come in our path. But if we have a vision of where we want our lives to be, like I do a 1-year vision plan, a 3-year and a 5-year, and I get granular on the details, like when it comes to my health, when it comes to what my team size is, when it comes to my volume and GCI, when it comes to my personal life, fitness, get granular, like build yourself that vision that you want to wake up to every day and work towards. Like if you have a picture in your head of what you want your life to look like, and maybe you have a vision board, or maybe you have it, a letter to yourself from 5 years from now written and framed on your desk, like see that vision every single day. And I promise it's going to push you through things that you didn't even know you would be able to get through. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would have been able to withstand 6 years now of being, I don't think I've woken up and felt anywhere near okay in 6 years. And that is something that is really difficult to grasp. Like I don't think that anyone can prepare you for that. But if you have, like, I have such a clear vision of what my life looks like, and everything is so easy in comparison because I know that if I can do what I'm doing now, feeling so horrible that by the time I get to where I want to be, I'll still be doing all of these things, but even having like 20% less physical pain or brain fog or whatever it may be is going to be such a reward that it keeps me pushing as hard as I can.
Right. Absolutely. And, when you start looking at your life that way, that's really when these challenges become the very thing that actually helps you become a stronger person, right? It
Boom.
becomes the pedestal.
You're much more articulate. I paint these very long stories, and you're very, very, very good at choosing the right words to sum them up. So thank you. Because it is the truth. It's like, it's you're very good.
Yeah, and I think, it's one of those things where when you're telling your story, right, and there's certain things that people pick up here and there, and it's actually really good that we're getting to hear the whole story,
Yeah.
because that's one of the things that I actually really wanted to know when you were talking about going through that process of acceptance and changing that challenge into the stepping stone to your success today and into the future, is how to find, I guess, that framework
Yeah.
almost of acceptance, and then when do you stop just kind of
Yeah.
wallowing in that and then start going into the next step, right? Because it can't be all positive, but it also can't be all negative and this is who I am and this is life's going to be this way right now. So it's positive acceptance. How do we do that?
Totally. So I love this question because I say that I went through that period of being really angry and sad, but the reality is there are still days that I wake up and I feel absolutely miserable and I am angry and I am sad. And because of the process that I guess the roller coaster I've been through with my health journey, it's taught me to have a toolbox, like an arsenal of things that I know that I can do that make me feel good and help me get into a better headspace. So say you're going through something really difficult. Well, take a day, take an afternoon, and just brain dump everything in your life that gives you joy. Brain dump everything that helps you to not focus on the current negative circumstance that you're in, but what are the things that make you feel light? One of my first mentors said, anything in your life, give it the heavy light test if you don't know what to do. If it's something you think about and it makes you feel heavy, that's something to take note of. If it's something in your life that makes you feel light, that's something to take note of. So I found the mechanisms in my life, in my job, in my friendships that I know and that I could go to. These are my go-tos when I'm not doing well mentally. And I learned that through accumulated experience while I was kind of in the mud, so to speak. So I realized that, hey, my social life has pretty much gone down the drain, and that makes me feel really sad and isolated. So what's something that I can do in my current state that would allow me that camaraderie or companionship that I'm missing so much? Okay, I can have a game night once a month and catch up with all my friends or clients. Like, that's something that gives me something to look forward to. If I can't get out of bed in the morning, I know that if I put on this playlist of my favorite music and blare it at the top of my speakers, my neighbors probably hate me, but I know that that's going to amp me up and get me out of bed. I know then that if I skip my morning routine that I did before I got, into this sickness of writing out 10 things I'm grateful for, writing out my affirmations in the present tense, writing out my goals in the present tense. So I am healthy, I am strong, I enjoy selling over 25 million in real estate this year. I enjoy helping 25 families purchase or sell their properties this year. Really, really turning your goals and your desires into things that you can write out every single day that are reminding you of where you want to go. And if you remember where you want to go, then you're not going to get stuck not doing anything. So for me, it's really, really, really been about creating a toolbox that I know that I can always rely on to get me into a better mood, whether that's, driving to the office and I'm just grumpy. So maybe I'll put on a funny podcast, or if I'm feeling, a little bit beat up from this real estate market, then I'll put on an audio book from one of my favorite real estate brokers or business coaches. Like, what are the things that you can always rely on? Is it family time, friend time? Is it learning? Is it doing something, creative? Or is it painting, or whatever it is in your life that is that outlet, that's your happy place? Protect your happy place like it is the most sacred temple in your life. Like, make sure that you have your go-tos. And I promise you that, like, no matter how bad that day, and that might be like, I just had the worst day ever, I'm going to go watch a movie that I love watching so much. That could be it. So I'm so sorry. I just got a new computer and I literally don't know how to turn off the message ding. So if you're hearing it, I apologize.
No, we're good here. I'm
Okay,
not hearing
cool.
anything, but your
Okay,
voice
good.
coming through.
Yeah, I keep getting these like message dings from clients, and I'm like, I don't know how to stop that because my car got broken into a couple of days ago, and they just took everything, computer and blah, blah, blah. Irrelevant, but I'm glad you can't hear my message dings.
No, it's all good.
Good.
And yeah, I think, when you mentioned the point about, having your go-to, right? Having your
Yeah.
happy place and protecting it, right? It's almost like your anchor that you have, that you can always have, that's there,
You're so
right?
good at summing things up. Yes. The anchors. What are your anchors that are going to keep you anchored in positivity?
Right, absolutely. And it's so important to protect that, like you said, because if you don't have, and I think with real estate agents and a lot of busy professionals and people who run their own businesses and entrepreneurs that are out
Yeah.
there with a lot of responsibilities, uh, they're so bogged down with the things that they have to do that they forget to take care of themselves, right? They keep moving forward and they think they have to keep doing that. But what happens, and I think you would agree with this, is if you stop taking care of yourself, you're not going to have as much of yourself to give to other
Yeah.
people. So you can't even show up the way you want to.
My business partner always says, because I do have a tendency, I think, from being a competitive athlete, to forget about balance. And I tend to, just work as hard as I possibly can. And she's always says, Athena, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I've made a point this, over the last year or so, to, like I said, my greatness tracker lines out what I need to do with work. Well, I also put my health must-dos in there. Like, what are the things that I have to do every week to take care of myself and to make sure that I'm not creating more stress in my life that's going to lead to a flare up, that's going to lead to a couple of days in bed. Like, I have to find that balance. And I think that whether it's, making sure that you have 1 or 2 date nights a week planned, even if that's like at home eating dinner together. And, if spirituality is important to you, making sure that you're going to church, or spending time in your own practice, spending time with family, making sure that you're like communicating. Because I think in real estate, or any entrepreneur, like you said, it's so easy to just get so hyper focused on finding success in business that we forget that business is just one of the, stokes on the bike. Like, we have to keep everything else in balance, or as close to it as we can. And I say that with the caveat that I have in no way figured this out. I am working on it. It will be something I forever work on. But I think having that awareness of, hey, what can I do to make sure I'm fostering a healthy relationship at home, or being a good partner or family member, or getting time with my kids, because otherwise you're going to look up and all of a sudden you have no idea where the years went, and your kids are old and you're burnt out and angry.
Right, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
so many people, like you said, they're so after that success that they forget to actually enjoy it the
Yeah.
way along as they're building it. And that, I think that's probably one of the biggest tragedies, in my opinion, is having all these things maybe at the end of the line and then looking back and thinking, wow, I was miserable for 50 years. I have a,
I
yacht and
love that.
$50 billion,
Yeah.
but nothing, right? I was miserable and it's over.
Yeah. That hits hard and it's so true. I was just speaking with my business partner about this yesterday because we were getting an estate sale ready. So we're going through this property that's absolutely gorgeous, and it's got, collected antiques that this man made like a huge effort to create and find these beautiful things in his life. But then he's got all of these things, we have all these things, and then what's going to happen? It's all going to an estate sale. Like all of these material things are getting sold off for, probably pennies on the dollar, and the house is getting sold. And it really does, remind you how fragile life is, and how I think your wording of how important it is to celebrate along the way. Again, I'm speaking to myself because I think it's so easy to just, accomplish one thing and then immediately go on to the next, instead of taking a moment to celebrate yourself, celebrate your hard work, appreciate those moments, and then give yourself moments away from the work too. I think it's like that hustle culture that is so, in right now. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, we're all going to this somewhere, and your stuff doesn't come with you, but your memories with loved ones are what are going to be cherished forever.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a lot of this, like you said, this hustle culture out there. And I think, for some people they do need it, right? As far as, the ones that are don't believe in themselves at all. I mean, I think, it might be helpful for them. But I think when you get to a certain point, it is important to remember that, almost looking the other way, right? Turning
Mhm.
180 and looking the other way and seeing that, hey, I've worked really hard. I got this part down. Now it's time to move on to the next step, right? So you're constantly improving, right? Slowing down is actually, in my opinion, being able to enjoy the journey is actually an improvement in
Yeah,
yourself and your self development and you as a real estate agent, you as a business owner, you as a person in general. So that's just the next step. And I think, it's important not to prolong that until after you've gotten to the goal, because there's going to be higher mountains to climb. I'm sure you're familiar with that, being a
totally.
skier, right?
Yeah, it's so true. It's like there's always going to be something more to go after. It's just our culture, and I think separating yourself from that when appropriate, like obviously there are times in all of our lives and businesses where your life is not going to be in balance. Like, for me right now, I'm coming off of a couple of, really difficult years with health, and I'm still struggling, but I'm able to get to the office every day. And because of that, like I know that right now I don't have kids, I'm not married. I'm gonna go full throttle. Like I am gonna work as hard as I possibly can. Obviously, trying to make good time with friends when I can, but like my focus is not social right now. It's on healing my body and building my business. So I think understanding the chapters in your life and which phase you're in, and realizing that, yeah, if I'm a first or second year realtor, right now is not the time to necessarily have balance. Like it's going to be difficult, and you're responsible for your own success. So if you're only working like 3 hours a day, the output will reflect that. But if you're in a position in where you're trying to grow your business, that's the time. My first mentor said to me, Athena, you should be in the office before everyone else gets here and after everyone else leaves, because everyone else here has been in the business for 5+ years and they've got their business down. You are starting from square one. There is always something to be done. And I fully agree with that. I think that there are periods of life where you go pedal to the metal and you put all of your effort into your business. But then as your life develops, as you grow, as you know, your business gets a little bit more stable, not getting stuck again. Don't get stuck in that habit of working yourself to death. Like, make sure you're taking care of the other portions of your life, but knowing which chapters are appropriate for what. So I think that kind of comes in with what you said about vision planning and setting those goals in the future, because usually if you're writing your goals for the future, it's not, I want to work 100 hours a week and, be at the office until 2 a.m. And I want, a happy marriage, and I'd like to think about having kids, and I'd like to travel this many times a year. Like, you're creating a vision of a balanced lifestyle. So making sure that the activities that you're doing, whether it's right now for the next 2 years, I'm going to hustle as hard as I can, and then make sure I'm like reassessing to implement, how I can bring balance to my life. But understanding that there's a time for everything. And if you know where you're going, then you can plan backwards, like you said, which makes
Right.
me realize that it's halfway through the year and I should probably update my vision.
Right. I think it's an ongoing thing, right? The
Yeah.
vision, because you're seeing new things and experiencing, and then sometimes maybe something that you wanted in the past, and then you realize maybe it's not what I want now, because I've changed and the world around me has changed. So it's always important to I think update those visions as well. And I think you brought up a good point there, where a lot of people, when they paint their visions into the future, it's never I'm working 100 hours a day, or I'm in the office until 5 a.m. and then I sleep for 30 minutes and I get back at 6 a.m. It's always something, it's really beautiful, right? When you
Hmm.
actually see these vision boards and vision statements. And I think, and maybe you can touch on this as well, is a lot of people, they really get down and into the into their work, and they work for many many years very hard, but they never stop, because I think the reason is because they don't think they deserve it.
Yeah.
They don't think they've worked hard enough for it, but in reality they have, and they
It's
should
so
accept that.
cultural. I really think it's cultural, because you travel, if you have the opportunity to travel to other countries, you see oftentimes in many places that the core of people's lives is not work. It's not,
Right.
you're not just working nonstop and not really enjoying life. And I think that we have created an environment that is very much that you work until you die, basically. And that's a horrible, that's a horrible vision of life. And I think it comes down to, what are those things that you can do to work on imposter syndrome and self-worthiness, and drilling it into yourself that, one of my affirmations, for example, two of them, very simple: I am worthy and I am good enough. Like, these are things that I think we all struggle with, believing that, we're the one that's going to be able to get through this hard situation, or we're going to be the one that's going to be able to help our client get from A to B. Oftentimes it's really difficult to take a step back and realize that we have the opportunity to really help people with their lives, but what's the point of anything if we're not taking care of ourselves also? Like, what is the point of doing all of this work if the entire time I'm just thinking in my head that I'm not qualified, or I'm not worthy of this maybe a weekend getaway in a spa, or I'm not worthy of quitting and moving to a different country. It's like convincing ourselves every single day, and in whatever way works for you, whether it's listening to positive affirmations, write it. For me, I'm very visual. I have to write everything down. So like take that time and journal. And I think it's a lifetime, it's something that never goes away. Like we're always going to have these questions of, isn't there someone like an adult that can be doing this for me? I think that all the time. I'm like, wait, isn't there an adult somewhere that can do this? What do I do? And it's like, no, I'm the adult, and I do have the ability to get us through anything, and I know that I can. So remembering that of what you've accomplished, who you are as a human being, remembering that what you go through that is the most challenging is absolutely the most formative. Like we don't learn in life by everything going well. We learn when something goes wrong and when something's difficult. So using these difficult periods of our lives to get to know ourselves, to get to know our strength, our worthiness, and then one day look back and be like, you know what, like I accomplished A, B, C, and D. And in the process, I've learned who I am as a person. And I know that I am worthy of joy, and I am worthy of greatness, and I'm worthy of success. And I think that a lifetime of implementing self-care practices like that is what allows you to have the perspective and appreciation for your life and for your efforts, because we put so much, like you said, you just work yourself to the bone, and then it's like, oh, I'm not worthy of retiring, I'm just going to keep going, and you're angry and sad, and that's not the life we want, people. Like let's dream up the most beautiful existence that we possibly can, and then let's paint that into our heads as a constant picture that we're working towards and that we're capable of accomplishing. I hope that fills everyone with lots of positive light, because it is so true. And sometimes we all need that reminder as often as possible. So again, going back to finding what activities that you can do to kind of build yourself up in your life and create a healthy mentality, and then figuring out how you can pour into other people too, because I think the more you give, the more you get.
Right. Absolutely. And those two things that you mentioned, right? I am worthy and I am good enough.
Mhm.
I don't think we say that to ourselves enough. And I think we should start doing that.
Oh, my therapist tells me to do it way more, but I'm I'm trying for sure. But it's so true. Like each one of us is worthy of greatness, and we are worthy of being the best versions of ourselves. And you are good enough despite that boy that made you sad, or that Tinder date that ghosted you, or I've never been on a dating app, so I'm just being a jokester, but like we all have these experiences that make you can push you down, and if we can use them as an opportunity to actually build ourselves up and be like, you know what, I am good enough, that was his loss, or a deal falls through, you know what, I'm worthy of success, I'm good enough to properly guide my clients, and I firmly believe that when everything's meant to be, it will be. I think that if we start programming these thoughts into our head and take a negative and turn it into a positive that goes down to our character, who we are as humans, and why we're the best for the job, even if you don't believe it, like fake it till you make it is one of the best, most valid things I've ever heard. Like none of us start any business or real estate or anything in life knowing exactly what to do, but we have the tools and resources to learn anything, to, the importance of coaching and mentorship, etc. But reminding yourself that you are worthy of the success and it's going to take hard work, but you're good. You are talented, you are strong, and you are good enough to accomplish those things. So it's a constant, you know, struggle for all of us. We're human, we're all broken, but we can do it. There are so many tools out there for helping us to be the best we can be, and it'll be different for everyone, and everyone, you know, gets fired up by different things. And if you know what fires you up and where you're going, then you can accomplish anything, I swear.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love that message. It was a beautiful message, Athena.
Thank
And
you.
I just wanted to thank you for being on the show today.
Oh,
I know we went a little
no,
bit
thank
over
you.
here. So
I could talk to you forever, but
yeah,
I
and I think we can listen for a long time as well.
Mm,
So I think you're a wealth of knowledge for
thank
what
you.
you've been through, and you have a beautiful way of sharing it. So for any of our listeners or viewers that want to follow you and your journey moving
Yeah.
forward, where are the best places for them to maybe follow you on social
Yeah.
media or anywhere else?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and sharing my little bit of my story. I hope that, you know, it um resonates with your listeners, and if anyone would like to discuss their own challenges or, you know, strategies for how to get through hard things, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm going to just give you my Instagram because it is a hub for all of my contact information. So my Instagram is Athena, Athena Brownson, Brownson, Realtor, Realtor. So if you go onto my my Instagram page, A, follow me, duh. B, shoot me a message if you want to chat. But my phone number and email are on there, and I'd love to connect with you and help any way I can. And again, I'm just a human figuring it out as I go, but if I can help with anything, I'd love to.
Absolutely. And we will make sure to leave that in the description and the show notes
Yeah.
down below. But Athena, I want to thank you again for being on the show. And before I let you hop off, was there any last pieces of advice or tips you want to leave with us here?
I would just say, I promise you will get through anything that gets in your path. As if I didn't say that enough.
I think it's important to have that reminder as many
Mhm.
times as we can have. So I want to thank you again, and I want to thank
Thank
you
you.
for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next show. Take
Awesome.
care.
Thanks.